here. And I would argue that this past week has been some of the craziest over Rams actions we've seen in a long time. And that's saying something about this fan base, to which we are proud members of, right?
Yeah,
which we are proud members of. So these are all things that I've seen. I had a fun time on the internet the past week, seeing some hot takes about the Rams. And so this first one here, the Rams did not draft a quarterback at pick 13. They drafted motivation. Stafford is going to win MVP again next year.
Ooh, that's a really good one. Because Stafford's a competitor coming off of a really good season, set up well as long as health goes his way. This is where I have to try to separate bias as best as I can because I want to be like, oh, yeah, he's going to do it again. It's hard to win back-to-back MVPs.
Yeah, it's hard to win one MVP.
Yeah, right? To win back-to-back. I wouldn't say it's like a definite, it's locked in. He's just going to win MVP, especially now that they drafted Ty Simpson. But I do expect a very good season from Matthew Stafford again. But to say he's winning back-to-back just for sure locked in, I wouldn't put it past it, but I wouldn't say it's going to happen. So I'd say it's an over Rams action, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
Mr. Hardcore, I like this. Not an over Rams action. Oh, yeah.
I like it.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. All right. That's the first one. The second one, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit today, but I'm going to say it like it is. The Rams roster is so set in stone, it's uncomfortable heading into training camp, right? Like maybe people want a little bit of competition. They don't necessarily like all the starters locked in right away. The Rams, maybe they're missing out on someone, but is the Rams roster so set in stone that it's uncomfortable?
I would, just speaking for myself, I would probably say no, just because I think that the Rams are one of those teams that like your roster spot is never really safe. And with the fact, like they never count the draft status and things like that, just to be able to put you ahead of someone else who may have a lower status. It feels like this roster and the coaching staff, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, has done a really good job of emphasizing that you have to earn your spot every single day. And it does feel like they mean that, because even like guys like Joe Noteboom, who got paid the big contract that we were just talking about, AJ Jackson was able to outwork him as a UDFA and took that spot just a year after he got his contract. So I would honestly say no, but I see what you're saying with that. So I'd say it's an over Rams action, but that's just speaking for myself. I wonder what other people have to say about that.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. saying over Rams action. Okay. All right.
What do you think?
I do think the Rams are pretty good, like you said, about like the player that wins the job wins it. I would be surprised, and I think if it's like, I'm not going to name names because I don't want to put that on the internet, but like if there was a certain position on the Rams team that like right now we look at their roster and we're like, okay, that player is the starter there, and then day one comes and it wasn't because of injury, it was because of a player really impressed during camp, they took over that position, I would get excited about that. So I would say I'm not uncomfortable, but as soon as we saw, if we see something like that happens, I'll be like, oh, that's different, that's surprising. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
Yeah. Okay. The next over Rams action. Robert Woods, age 34, will be the next Rams head coach when McVay retires in 10 years. And I want to just say that I saw this. I don't know who it was by, but this comment came. It was the press conference after day 3 of the draft with McVay and Snead. And I saw someone, I'm like, that's so random. Okay. And so I wrote it down intentionally to talk about it on today's show. But what are your thoughts? I know you're a big Bobby Trees fan.
Oh, yeah. Love Bobby Trees. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. We haven't seen him as a coach yet, but he definitely has the personality to be able to do that. My hope is that selfishly we still have McVay for longer than 10 years, but I'll just put it in the terms of the next Rams head coach is going to be Robert Woods, which that would be awesome. I would love that. I'm just for the vibes of it, I'm going to say that's not an over Rams action.
Okay. Rams fan Japan said 2046. Okay, so we got 20 more years with McVay. I'm cool with that.
Let's enjoy it.
But yeah, I'd get excited for Bobby Trees if that were to happen for sure.
It's interesting how Robert Woods is 34 because he's the same age as Devontae Adams. And
That is
it's weird.
interesting.
It feels like it's been forever since I've seen Robert Woods play, but I guess he's only 34. So
it's because he was he's battled injuries kind of the last couple of years of his career.
yeah,
And he was kind of buried on some depth charts, in the Texans and the Titans. So, and I guess he was the Steelers for a hot minute there too. But no, I as soon as he retired as a Ram and then like the next day became a coach, I was like, that's phenomenal. I
felt
love
like dream scenario.
Yeah, well, because Robert Woods is one of the people that helped establish the Rams culture as it currently is. And so having him come, to be a coach in it, I love the continuity, right?
I love that too. And it's like you just see little things of like what Robert Woods brought to this Rams team and like the way the receivers block and everything. And I'm always gonna think of that Cooper Cup tweet that he sent out about like when he came in his rookie year, he was modeling everything that he did after what Robert Woods did, even in the blocking kind of game, like that kind of effort. So it's like it feels like Robert Woods, like his DNA is infused into this team still, which obviously he's a coach now, but it feels like in the way that our receivers play, you still have that little reminiscence of Bobby Trees. So I love that.
No, 100%, 100%. Okay, I got two more here for you. Two more.
All right.
Another Ty Simpson's overreaction here. The Rams drafting Ty Simpson is only a big story because every other team was so boring during the NFL draft.
That's not an over Rams action. I mean, like you can make an argument that they reached on him, and I really think that the biggest reason that this thing has gotten so big was because the Rams did such a good job keeping it under wraps for so long. Like this really wasn't a big story heading into the draft. Of, this is where the Rams are looking. They want to get Ty Simpson. Everything was about the Cardinals or the Jets maybe taking him, and maybe here and there UT or Rams and stuff like that. But I think, it was just because the Rams kept it so quiet that this thing was such a shock because it was so off of the board of what every other team kind of felt normal, as you're saying, just kind of regular. This was a big shock, though. So I'd agree with this one, not an over Rams action.
Yeah, and again, like I think anytime any team drafts a quarterback in the first round, it's going to be met with a certain criticism to it of overreaction or not. But I do think the fact that Sean McVay and the Rams drafting a quarterback in the first round at 13 with Matthew Stafford coming off an MVP season, that is going to cause be a big story. But the reality is there weren't a lot of other teams that did a whole lot of like dramatic trades, right? Like, besides Mendoza, there wasn't another quarterback in the first round, right? Like it's kind of the way that the draft just sort of played out. And honestly, like I was watching the draft passively with my brothers while we were disc golfing. And like, it seemed by kind of like round 4-ish, teams started to kind of go into coast mode. There were a few late round trades and things like that. Like, the Rams traded up to get Daniels, but it didn't seem to have the same drama. Well, I guess like last year there was the Shadur Sanders, so maybe that was just like more drama than we're used to in the draft. But anyway, that's just an observation.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that one.
All right, I got my last one here for you.
Okay.
Les Snead and Sean McVay have worked together for 10 years. The Rams' next 10 years will be even better than their last 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So let me just, while you're thinking and collecting your thoughts, you have 9 winning seasons, 8 playoff appearances. You have 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl win, and then also an NFC Championship, appearance this year. So like in the past 10 years, the Rams have been a perennial, contender and in the conversation for the Super Bowl for a decade, which is crazy to me to think about as a Rams fan. The Rams' next 10 years will be even better than their last 10 years. Over Rams action or not?
That's a really good one. And I think it depends on how you look at it. Because what if, let's say, they win 2 Super Bowls in the next 10 years, but they aren't as consistent of having winning seasons? Let's say instead of like 8 winning seasons, they have, I don't know, 5. Would you count that as more successful because they got 2 Super Bowls out of it compared to the last 10 years we've gotten one?
Mm,
Because I could totally see the Rams in the next 10 years winning 2 Super Bowls. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I could see that happening. And if that's the case, it would be better than the last 10, in my opinion. But it depends on how you define it, I guess.
yeah. I do think, and maybe it's just like the last 2 seasons where the Rams have earned a certain respect from the NFL that they didn't
Yeah.
have before. And I believe that respect was definitely earned, but there was a lot of years there where like teams would view the Rams as like kind of this scrappy underdog,
Yeah.
every game, that sort of
Especially
thing. They
versus the
could,
Seahawks.
yeah, yeah. And so like I feel like now there's this respect of like, oh no, like we got to play the Rams. And like when you watch other content creators do like their schedule prediction and stuff, they'll often say that their team loses to the Rams, right? And like
Yeah.
that, like that's a badge of honor.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially compared to what it was like for a long stretch of time, where, like you said, we were like viewed as a scrappy team that maybe would give your team a tough out every now and then. But like it is crazy how the expectation now is like at the bar minimum, like just make the playoffs. Like
Yeah.
that's the lowest. If it's more of a surprise if the Rams don't make the playoffs than if they go ahead and make a run. So definitely a good spot to be in. And I wouldn't be surprised if the next 10 years were more successful. It's a tall order because they've been so consistently good. But if they get 2 Lombardis out of the next 10 years, that wouldn't surprise me at all. And Mr. Hardcore brings up a good point. Like, as long as McVay stays another 10 years, it's not an overreaction
Yep.
or over Rams action. Sorry for messing that up. But yeah, McVay is definitely a big key piece of this, just like the culture and everything. Because we know Stafford's not going to be here another 10 years unless it's like the immortal chamber helps him stay another 10 years. But McVay is definitely the key to it for sure.
Yeah, 100%.